I was a lawyer, and I took out tremendous student loan debt to become a lawyer. I had $320,000 of student loan debt. I could not afford to fail. The stuff people would tell us, it was just like mind-blowing, like the long list of terrible things they were doing in their lives. And I just, there was one meeting where the client was spilling their guts. I just started laughing. We went from 4 brokers to 13 people. We went from like $75 million of listings. We're approaching 400 right now. And with new development in the mix, it's gonna approach like $1 billion. I tell my team all the time, it's like, we're glorified waiters. We are a service industry. Like, how many times a week do we pick up dog shit in front of a building? 90% of what I do every day is not natural, it's trained. I did not do any of this natural. The way I walk, the way I stand. I spent time practicing how to stand outside somebody's door. People who I think succeed and outperform others, what is it? Delusional self-confidence. You should not be that confident in your own abilities. Not even cockiness. It's like, I'm going to get through this. I just was cold calling. I cold called a billionaire one day. She picked up, and
Ravi, you're the #1 team, small team in New York City. Everyone can kind of see all of that. They see like your team on Owning Manhattan. Your team's going to be on the 2nd season. With that, what are all the upsides and downsides of being on a show like that?
it's funny. I'm in like the best position possible because I'm not a cast member. I'm not a full-time, like when Owning Manhattan's filming, it's not like that is not part of my job and responsibility to like support that, be in that. But I have team members who are on the show, and I feel an obligation to support them and to be facilitative to like helping them succeed in everything they do, which includes the show. And then I also, the show was a unique value add opportunity, right? Like I looked at it and said, there's no other tool in marketing, social media, real estate, and anything that I can say, well, that could put me in front of 400 million people. You know, like there's nothing that can do that. That's the power and the influence that Ryan has like sort of has created with his team and with everyone at Serhant and Netflix. Is like, there's no one that can compete with that. Like, you know, and that's a really powerful thing to have, right? To say to your clients, nobody else can do this, but we can, you know, and it's not like you can put every listing on the show. I'm in a fortunate position because I'm like what I call like show adjacent. You know, like I'm not in the show. Like I'm not a cast member, but I'll make an appearance, or my voice might show up, or my name might get mentioned. And that's a pretty good spot because I get some of the exposure. Obviously, it's not like I'm there all the time, but like I get some of the exposure from that, and I can benefit from it. I can call Ryan up and Netflix up and say, hey, we got a listing. It might be good. The timing's right. I can make that phone call and have that conversation and have that access. But I can also just say like, no, nothing to do with it. I'm not gonna be part of it, or this client wants nothing to do with it. That's a unique place to be. I don't think a lot of people get that opportunity. So I recognize that. I'm definitely grateful to Serhant, to Ryan, to Netflix, you know, to be able to make that happen and like sit in a meeting with, you know, we have a client, you know, who has, you know, they need to sell a house in Chelsea. And that was part of the discussion, is like, you know what, your timing is good. We're going to be on the market when the show is released. This might be a really good marketing tool for you. Whereas like for 99% of my clients, I say like, it's not good for you. Like it just doesn't work. The timing doesn't work, or you have privacy concerns or whatever. Like most people don't want to be on a reality show. So I would say like working with it has been a really interesting experience, learning about reality TV, learning about how it all comes together, and seeing how much work it is for everybody, not just the producers or the people filming, the crew, you know, Ryan. It's like all the cast members work really hard, because what's different about this show, I think, from a lot of others is these are all brokers, you know, they're successful, different range of like experience, but they're all aiming to do more. And they're real brokers. You know, I think that's like, they have real businesses. Like they might spend 4 or 5 hours filming something, but then they gotta go get on the phone with their clients and like actually do real estate work. And I think that's a really tough balance, and I respect it. And, you know, people have strong opinions on reality TV in our industry. I think fighting about reality TV, like in the influence it has in our industry today, it's like fighting about the internet. It's like, oh, I wish the internet wasn't here. It's like, it's here.
Yeah,
Like you can either figure out how to use it and find a positive way to bring it into your life if you can, or just don't participate. But like saying how negative it is, like I said, the world has changed. The world develops and changes in different ways. Media, social media has changed dramatically, and this is a big part of it.
Yeah, and I imagine like just being like a business owner, you have a never-ending to-do list, and then you're gonna add on top of that like 2, 4, 6 hours of filming a day for a week for a sprint.
For me, it's easy. Usually, if I film, it's like you're here for an hour and a half and you're gone. Probably because I'm so annoying, they want me gone. But I think Jess Taylor, she's on our team. She's great, and she balances that stuff. And I see the pressure points. It's hard. There are weeks where she would give us the way to work with that. Like she would give us a heads up like a week or 2 hours. Like, by the way, like I'm gonna have to film 5 or 6 hours a day all week this week, next week or whatever. So then like, okay, thankfully we've got 13 people on the team. So go sit back with our, Gian, director of ops, and like we sit back and we're like, okay, how do we cover this? How do we make sure this all works and that there's no problems that arise from that obligation that Jess has or that someone else has for that week? We manage it. It's like anything else. And I like to not recognize the value of that tool, I think would be foolish, right? So
Yeah, and I want to get into like the team and all that like in a little bit later, but just I'm sure you have sellers on both sides of the fence. Like one's like, this would be a great marketing tool, and then the other ones, without like names, addresses, etc., like they're like, I just want to be private. I don't want that like type of exposure.
Totally.
So how do you decide on like, okay, these are the right 3 fit? It's like based off of timeline, stuff like that, and they wanted it?
I think, there is a small subset of people who just want to be on TV, right? I didn't have any of those people to present to like Netflix or Ryan or anyone for this year. But there are people who I've like worked with in the past who are like, oh, if there's an opportunity, I'd love to be on it. I love that show, or whatever. That's a different thing, right? That's like just like they're fans and they want to be a part of it. And that's cool. I respect that. Like, where do you get to be a part of like something you like watching? If you have that opportunity, it's fun. But for sellers, I think the most obvious beneficiaries are developers, right? You are in the middle of building something. We can film that process. We can talk. You can film meetings about it. Do some really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
On TV, and then the show comes out 8, 9 months later, and your property is ready to sell. That's great exposure. It's like all of a sudden we have marketing exposure to hundreds of millions of people, and the timing is perfect. So that's a huge tool that we have endless statistics on how much traffic it generates, how much income. And I've seen it too. I get random inquiries from people. I get people who ask me about the show. Are you going to be on the show? I love that thing. You're going to have varying opinions. But bottom line is most people don't want to be on TV, especially the clients we work with who are mostly high net worth, ultra high net worth, some celebrity, some, just some who are, maybe they're not celebrity, but their jobs are super high profile. They don't really want to be on TV. Yeah. And the answer to them is, you don't have to be. Like, I'm barely ever a part of that. Like, the reality is, like, 99.99% of our business has nothing to do with that. But it's a tool we can utilize when the situation is right. And thankfully, I think what's great about Sirhan as a place is, like, if something feels like a good fit, or if we really need something, Brian's a text message or phone call away. He's possibly the busiest person on earth, but he responds and he deals. And he's accountable, right? And I think he values that, which is good because culturally that flows through the whole place. And, figuring out like with Ryan, it's like, oh, like this client, I think they'd be a good fit. We're going to get a response. We're going to figure that out fast. And that's a great thing because we can give clarity to people really quickly. But for the people it worked for, it's just you have the right property at the right time and the filming timing has to align as well. Yeah. But, hopefully it works and helps us out. I think no question the exposure is great. And, the industry's heading in a certain direction. And I think we have to embrace every tool we can, right? To get to provide the best possible marketing. So that means we get the best results for our clients.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that builders, like timeline wise, you can sell like a story behind it all too.
Yeah.
So
But look, people buy stories. That's what sells, right? Like walk into a house like this and I tell you like, yeah, it's, they use the best materials. It's all really expensive. That's not that interesting. But if I tell you a story about how I came in here mid-construction and one of the contractor's guys was hanging from a scaffold, like carving something in the replacement piece of plaster or something like, then you get a sense of like, wow, the attention to detail here is incredible. Like that tells you something about the quality of the house.
Yeah.
So like, I really believe strongly in that. It's like, you can't just tell random stories, but like people understand and retain information much better through like storytelling than anything else. So if you can integrate that into a sales process, it's super effective.
And as you kind of said on your Instagram, like at 2025, video is not really optional.
Oh yeah.
And video is the easiest way to kind of tell a story nowadays.
Totally agree. It's authentic, right? That's what people really want more than anything. What's the biggest criticism of real estate photography? It's all wide angle lens. Everything looks bigger. Everything looks more dramatic. The ceiling heights look higher. Whatever it is, it looks lighter because they changed the lighting. And candidly, like while that doesn't happen on every single photo, people are right. Like the photos look better sometimes than reality. It's depending on the type of real estate. But video doesn't lie, right? Like it's really hard. AI is making it a little easier, I guess. But it's really hard to actually manipulate video. Like real video, it's a very accurate depiction of a space. There's a story inherently, even if it's just a silent walkthrough with some music. Like there's at least a story there. It's like, oh, like here we're walking through the house, right? And that people really appreciate and really like. And I will say, like over the years, if you asked me 8 years ago, do brokers come in often and film something for a client, like during an open house or a broker event? The answer would have been probably not that much. Today, it's like, anybody who's got a real client for a piece of property, they're going to walk through and they're going to do a quick video because that's what they're going to send. They're not going to take photos. I mean, like that's not that useful. Like, some people have mastered the iPhone photography. I have not. No. So, like, I think video is the key. And every format, like when you look online at all the different like all the apps that are super popular, right? It's like they're all based around video, right? LinkedIn's the only one that's not based around video, and it's a different beast altogether.
Yeah.
And even then, people are posting more video on LinkedIn with their posts. So like I think if you're not doing it, yeah, you're definitely falling behind.
Intrigued by like, for example, like brokers like you who you built the success and you're like, okay, now I'm like embracing like, for example, reality TV. It's like being on TV, being on video. It's like I think that's the right way to do it versus sometimes like the opposite of like people just want to be famous. And
oh yeah.
Type of approach.
I think the bottom line for me and what I hope preserves my credibility with my own clients and the network of brokers I work with is even if I really craved, like what drives me is competition, right? And thankfully I'm in an industry where money flows from the competitive nature of it for me. And I compete mostly with myself. Like I think there's probably maybe a perception of me with some brokers that like I'm competitive with other brokers. And really like I want to win every pitch. I want to get every deal done. But really like it's very inward for me. It's like if I'm not winning every pitch, what am I doing wrong? I don't really think about like the other person as much because I want to hold myself accountable. But you look at the way the industry is changing, and I think there's a lot of brokers who are in it with the hope of becoming famous.
Yeah.
Which when you look statistically at real estate brokers, like you might as well just go be an actor. You have a better shot than you do at becoming famous than you do as a real estate broker. I'm like, nobody really cares about us. Like we are in the service industry. I tell my team all the time, it's like, we're glorified waiters. Like that is what we do. We are a service industry. Like how many times a week do we pick up dog shit in front of a building or like do these clean up something that's gross in an apartment, get rid of a cockroach, whatever, like that stuff happens every week. It's grunt work. I still do it. Like, and it's not like I'm like, yeah, I got a team of 13 people. I do it less than I did a few years ago, but I still do it a lot. And if you're in the business for fame, there's something really warped about how you're looking at it. And like it, because it's a client service business. For me, I look at it as what are the tools I can use to be better at this and be better for our clients and get better results. And that's where the competition comes back into play. It's like, I want to actually be better than the people I compete with. I want to actually, I think one of the criticisms of our industry for so long is once the internet became a tool for brokers, it's like, oh, you can put listings online. Great, like put the listing there and just like take a seat and wait and see what happens.
Yep.
It's kind of lazy, right? When you think about like luxury marketing in every other business, right? You think about like jewelry, you think about like hotels, hospitality, whatever. They do so much more. Like they're just constantly going. So that's where I got excited about the opportunity to like start bringing video in and social media and like figuring out how to organically leverage what Serhant has built to make our business better, because you can't do the same thing over and over again and expect it to continue to grow if the circumstances and world around you are changing. And like, let's face it, like the world's changing drastically. So if you're not evolving and keeping an open mind on how to be better, you're going to fall behind. Like you just are. And I see it now. There are brokers, and it's not like young versus old. It's like open-minded versus not, right?
Yeah.
Like there are people who refuse to evolve. There are people who believe like social media and the internet and everything else is like the be-all end-all to being a broker. That's also kind of foolish, like because it's still a relationship business, right? Like you can't just talk to Instagram to a camera. You have to go meet people. You have to shake their hands. You have to be in person.
Actually do the business.
Yeah, it's like you can't just hope for the best. And the ugly and annoying part of our business is lead generation. It's what nobody wants to do. But it's the lifeblood of the business. Without lead gen, nothing happens. I think Ryan understands that better than probably any CEO in our business. I think that, it's always surprising to me how few brokers embrace it, because even though it's hard, it's how you make money. Like, you can make a living off lead gen alone, right? For other agents, like there are companies built around providing leads. They're not necessarily very efficient, but people pay for it. And yeah, I mean, that's one of them for sure. But there's also like the garbage ones, right?
Yeah,
like
the garbage ones.
Yeah, and yeah, Zillow, that's a whole other conversation. We could probably have a 3-hour chat on Zillow and StreetEasy. It's like, that's an ongoing battle. And that's a discussion brokers in New York, all over the country, people are talking about how to handle that. And I think it's super important for the future of our business. But, video marketing, definitely, you got to evolve to stay relevant, to stay ahead of your competition.
Yeah. And I think like that's the thing is like most people kind of see all this stuff like TV, like $20 million listing, like all the things, but they don't see all the stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like the actual, as you said, like the service behind it all. And that's why it's not really sales, service.
It's interesting. I always wondered, like, we have these reality shows and they're fine. Like they're reality shows. I always wondered if it would be entertaining to people to see like what like documentary style real day for like a top real estate broker, right? It's like one of the things I find fascinating. I had to do this the other day. It's like I'm on the phone being informed. I had 2 phone calls back to back where like one of them was telling me I didn't get a $20 million listing that I had been chasing for 3 years. And the other one was telling me that a deal that I thought was happening for $15 million was actually falling apart and was not, and the buyer was walking. Then I had to get on the phone right after that to talk to a new seller who I was going to pitch like that day. And like I had to get off the phone, like I was ready to throw my phone through a wall. I was livid. And I just be like, hey, what's going on? How's it going? Like, yeah, like really looking forward to seeing you later. Like, confirming that blah, blah, blah. You just have to turn it on right away. And I just, in that moment, it's like I realized it's become a little bit natural for me over the years because I'm so used to it. But I thought back to when I first started, because we started doing sales training recently. So I think about these things differently now, because now I think about how to teach it to my team members. And it's like it was eye-opening to do that, to go through that thought process, because I used to never think about how to relay this information, like how I developed some of these skills to junior agents and mid-level agents. And I said to them during the first sales training, I was like, guys, I just like want you to know, I thought about this for a while. Like 90% of what I do every day is not natural. It's trained. Like I did not do any of this naturally. Like the way I walk, the way I stand, like it's all trained. I was obsessive when I got in the business. I read all these books on, started with real estate sales, right? Okay. So when I got through what I thought were all the good books on real estate sales, I moved into general sales and negotiation books. And then it was networking and how, how to win friends, influence people, all the typical, none of these books are like groundbreaking, but I read all of them because I just wanted to absorb as much as I could. I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, like, I'm not super creative. I was like, so I'm just going to figure out, like, how did the best people do this before?
Yeah.
I'm going to emulate that, and then I'm going to figure out how to make it a little better for me. And that's been the foundation of how I approach this business. But yeah, like now recently going back, I like realized telling my team, I'm like, I know everyone thinks that like I can go into a pitch and just rattle stuff off. I'm like, that is not the case. Like it takes a lot. And I taught myself literally in terms of attention to detail, I spent time practicing how to stand outside somebody's door, like reading about body language to see like how are they going to perceive, how does the way you stand impact someone's immediate perception of you? Like it's not a normal thing to do. And like now I realize that. But for me, when I was learning it 10 years ago, I was just like, oh, like so let me just read about this because this would be super effective and helpful. And I would just read about it and then I'd go try it out and I'd see like I'd like be very mindful in the moment of like, how's this person reacting to me? Like, what does their body language look like? So that's a whole other thing is like now learning about what other people's body language means for how they react to you and what kind of impression you're giving. It's fascinating stuff when you're like a nerd for it.
Yeah.
But then like now I look back, I'm like, I realize I've got 13 team members. Some of them are in their 20s. Most of them are in their 20s still or early 30s. And they probably didn't read all those books. Yeah. And they probably didn't do all those things. It doesn't mean they did something wrong. It's just everybody does things differently. So I'm like, all right, like let me go back and like tell you guys how I did this because maybe it'll be helpful. And they're all going to do things differently. But it's been interesting going through sales training for them. It's actually been super helpful for me because it's the first time in 10 years that I'm like going back and almost reteaching all these things. And now I'm like a little more cognizant of them again. So like, yeah, like that process to do that stuff it's like anything else. I was an athlete growing up and in college, and I just obviously I follow like like all the leadership styles for whether it's CEOs, athletes, whatever. Like I find that stuff super fascinating, and I like I said I kind of nerd out on it. Like I couldn't like the Michael Jordan documentary on Netflix. Like when I just wanted to watch it because it was cool and everyone was watching it and like everyone was talking about it, I couldn't get through one episode. But then, like, I saw some Instagram clip, and it was about his leadership style. And I
made you go back.
I watched the whole thing inside of 3 days while I'm, like, sitting next to my wife and kids sleeping. It's like midnight. I'm, like, sitting there, like, looking at it, texting people on my team, like, this is how we should do this, or this is how, like, we should adjust how we're doing this. Like, it just changed. Like, then I could absorb the information. It was like reading a book. I'm like, oh, okay, like, this is useful for work and productivity. Like, I can do this. Like, let me just watch this for a minute. Like, and then I get through the whole thing. I'm like, that was great. That was really useful. And so I look for ways to learn about how to get better, like, all the time. And that ties back to all the video stuff and everything. It's like, you just got to keep trying to be better.
I'm finding, like, a common thread across a lot of people. It's, like, just a natural state of curiosity.
Yeah.
And, like, following that, and then it's the whole like Steve Jobs quote of like you can't connect the dots looking forward, but you can connect it looking backwards.
Yeah.
So it's like all these little things that you pick up from like a book, a movie, etc., start to inform like how you do sales, how you interact, communication, body language.
Yeah.
And just that's what shapes you. So are there like books that or things, books, movies, etc. You're like, okay, I need them to watch this, read this, or go through this, or anything.
First one I read, and I've recommended it to a few team members, is How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's the famous one, Dale Carnegie. Like that is It's interesting that book was written so long ago. You read it, they updated it I want to say like 10 years ago. For modern times, so it would read a little more easily. But like honestly, the same core concepts apply. Human nature has not changed that much, right? Like it's the same thing. How to Sell Real Estate by this guy Tom Hopkins. I tell people, I'm like, this guy wrote a blueprint on how to sell real estate in it's like middle America essentially, right? It's written for those markets, and so like it applies everywhere, though. You can apply the same concept in New York City. It's just a little different. There's cultural difference to account for, and also like mathematical differences and like how much ground you can cover and where because of the density here. But it's all the same stuff. And Chris Voss's book,
The negotiation one.
yeah, that's viral everywhere. I read it. I read it before it was cool. But but his advice is great. And he's also big on body language. He's big on word selection. And I think that stuff matters a lot. How you frame an issue to somebody really impacts how they perceive it and respond to it. People underestimate the impact of their words and the tone. And like there are times where I tell like team members, I'm like, it would have been better if you texted a prep like something ahead of time. Because if you're dropping big news, sometimes you want to prep people with that. Like maybe it's, if you're negotiating something, like getting on the phone and delivering the counter, while that's sometimes super effective and helpful depending on personality, and it's definitely the old school way to do it. I tend to lean towards a different approach where, like I say, send a text message with all the information, followed by what the recommended course of action is, followed by let's discuss this on a call. What time, get the times then. I want the whole conversation mapped out, right? Like this is the response. Here's what's reasonable and unreasonable about it. And here's how we should react to it and how we can move this forward and why. And now let's get on a phone call and talk about it. Because otherwise, like you're getting on it's like going on a road trip without Google Maps or something. It's like, we're starting a conversation with no substance whatsoever behind it. You can deliver the news, sure, but you can't expect somebody, especially when they're dealing with like multi-million-dollar assets, how do you expect them to process that information and give you a real, like now you've turned one phone call into two because like they're not gonna be able to give you a real response on the spot. 95% of people won't. Impulsive people like me, sure, like we'll give you a response right away. But I think that kind of stuff is so important to client management, deal management. I'm obsessive with deal management. Nothing annoys me more than a broker who says, let the attorneys deal with it. Don't let the attorneys deal with it. Like the attorneys are there for the legal work, not the deal work. And like, I view it like you're a quarterback of the deal, right? Like sure, the attorneys have to do their job and you have to respect those boundaries. But you also need to steer things in the right direction and make sure people are focused on the right issues. Like there's so many red herrings in real estate deals. Like people worry about these issues that largely are just irrelevant. Like it could be like some kind of open permit that is harmless and means nothing. So what do you do? Like, do you let the attorneys battle it out over how they're going to deal with it? Or do you say, you know what, like, let's get ahead of this, guys. Like, let's get the expediter or the architect on the phone and let's all talk about it. And let's make sure like everything's out in the open. And we can also get the architect to give us like the estimate for what it costs to deal with it, how much time it might take, worst case scenario. Now, instead of like this mysterious issue that everyone's like, why isn't it solved yet? At least now it's like, okay, so this is like at worst a 3-month problem that's worth like $3,000 and it's a $15 million deal. Let's just figure it out. Yeah. Like no problem, like no big deal. Framing the issue is so important. And it applies to every aspect of a negotiation and everything we do. So I think understanding that stuff is so critical.
Really quickly, before we get back into the episode, did you know that email beats the ROI of social media 40-1? If you want to turn your email list into more listing appointments, then you need to check out Ella. Ella is the only email marketing agency for real estate agents. We help you build a hyper-local email newsletter. We also send conversation starter emails, and we do way more. So you can turn your email into a profitable marketing channel this year. Click the link below, check it out. Hope to see you in there. Let's get back to the episode. Being someone who's like impulsive, but knowing that like managing emotions, managing people, like you seem to have trained like yourself, like emotional intelligence. Yeah. And having that, was that like, how did you, obviously it took probably a lot of pieces, but like if you were to teach, hey, one new agent on your team, like a 20-year-old, like, okay, look, you're going to be dealing with a lot of problems. You have to have those highs and lows and kind of return back to baseline because there's going to be like another deal, another thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's compartmentalizing and having discipline with that is super important. I am not inherently like, unless I am dialed in on something, I'm not inherently disciplined, right? Like I'm disciplined with fitness, I'm disciplined with work. I'm not disciplined with like, oh, I got to do this paperwork at home, like, submit something to the town for our permit for our house or something. I'm terrible at that, like awful. Thankfully, I'm married to my wife Katie, who is like ultra type A. Like she is the polar. Like I was a terrible student. She was like the god of students. Like I think she got 1 A- in her life, and it was
she probably like
it was a big deal.
Yeah,
it was a big deal. No, like she was chemical engineer, patent attorney. Like she thought organic chemistry was easy. That's all you need to know about this woman.
Yeah, jeez.
Intelligence level off the charts, discipline off the charts. Still doesn't need a calendar to manage her life. Like she's now like she's at home with our kids, and like that's a lot of work.
Yep.
And she doesn't have a calendar. I'm like, how do you do it? Like, how do you remember to do things during the day? Like, I can't do that. Like, I've got like 2 or 3 people who are responsible for making sure I don't screw things up during the day. And pretty much everyone else on the team like knows like they got to nudge me on little things to make sure they don't fall through the cracks. I need that support. Like I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm not good at. And getting good at managing my emotions was, frankly, it came out of need. I was broke when I started doing this. I had $320,000 of student loan debt. I could not afford to fail. Couldn't fail. And if I wasn't gonna fail, like I needed to make sure like it's like, oh, you gotta be disciplined. Like I can't like lose my temper with a client because I'm in a bad mood or because something bad just happened somewhere else. Like I gotta look perfect. And I gotta put that act on because that's the only way I'm gonna succeed. So it was born out of need more than anything else. But there was a quick realization that brokers who could not maintain a steady hand just didn't have staying power, and they didn't have client retention. Like they couldn't retain clients the same way that somebody who could get, like, what are people looking for? They're looking for confidence. They're looking for direction. They're looking for guidance. My clients want me to get on the phone and say, this is what you should do. Here's why. I just need your approval. They don't like, most of them don't want to talk through the nuance unless it's a nuanced deal for some reason. Most of the time, they just want to know what the expert says. And you got to be the expert. You can't be an expert if you're emotional. You just can't. Like, not emotional, like meaning like if you're all over the place.
Yeah.
You can be emotional, like you can show some emotion that you care about what's happening. But yeah, I have a temper. And like, I think controlling that for our clients is like, that's super important. So like, it's never a question. It's like, keep your mouth shut when you're talking to clients. Listen, do your like, even with like annoying brokers who are doing a terrible job, like I've probably had it out with maybe 3 or 4 real estate brokers over the course, probably 4 over the course of my career. 1 recently, and I shouldn't have done that. But yeah, like you got to learn to control these things because they're not. Ultimately, there are very few situations in life where losing your temper, losing your cool is actually beneficial for your client or for your end goal. So. That's how I learned it. It's unconventional, but that it was born out of need more than anything else.
So like, again, everyone sees like the rankings, number 1, they see like the success. But for example, you just said $320,000 in debt. You were broke. Take me back to like Ravi that time and like what it took to actually build to where you are today.
Do we have to? It's traumatizing. No, I was a lawyer. And I took out tremendous student loan debt to become a lawyer. Thought, like everyone else in law school, that I was going to come out and get some job at a big law firm. I was going to pay off my debt in like 2 years. I'd be good. And my wife also followed that track, but much more intelligently than me. She had some, she went to Boston College Law School with like a pretty significant scholarship, and also saved up a lot of money from her. She worked as a chemical engineer for a couple of years, and like and she also worked that she was in engineering sales, actually. So she learned quite a bit about sales. Useful for me today. But she did it wisely, but she still had like another 90,000 of debt, which, together we had about 320. 80,000, something like that. Anyway, so I was basically out of law school. I was in law school. I turned on the TV, and Lehman Brothers was collapsing. Wow. I was like, okay, this is probably gonna be harder than I thought. Turns out also, if you're not a good student, like disciplined by nature for academics, law school is a terrible place to go. I was possibly one of the worst law students of all time. I treated law school like I treated like high school, where it was like, I'm here, I'm a student. Like, I don't say I wasn't there to party. I did party, but I wasn't there for that. I think I relied on what I'd always relied on. It was like, I could probably do okay if I just study a lot right before the test.
And realize that didn't really.
Didn't do great. Wasn't a complete and total failure, but didn't perform well enough to, especially in a bad job market, to get those jobs, right? Like the big paying, high paying jobs. I ended up interning at the Bronx District Attorney's office, and then I took a job there. I graduated law school without a job. September, I got a call from the Bronx DA's office saying like they had an extra spot. I was like, yep, I'll take it. And the comedy of my life at that point was I shifted to a student loan income-based repayment plan, right? Thinking like, okay, like if I do 10 years in public service, I'll do this job, then maybe I'll go like work for a judge for a couple of years as a clerk, a clerkship, and then that'll give me the federal experience to like go be a federal prosecutor or work at a big law firm. And it's like, oh, if I go to be a federal prosecutor, then like I do that for another few years, and I get 10 years, I get the public service forgiveness, right? Like, and the government will pay off my loans. So I was like, that's my brilliant genius plan. And like a year in, I'm like, I don't know how sustainable this is because my income-based repayment was so low based on my shitty, terrible income that the interest was growing faster than I could pay it off. Yeah, so like my 200 something $1,000 balance grew by like $20,000 in year one while I was making payments. And I remember I looked at that number after a year and I thought, I'm really like, what happens if like I'm here for 5 years and then all of a sudden like, what happens if like some presidential administration or Congress comes in and says, we're not going to do this plan anymore because I'm not eligible for it yet. It's not like I could like complain. I'd have no standing to complain about it. And I'm like, and my balance is growing. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to rest my hands. I'm not going to put my life in the hands of like the federal government managing that process for 10 years. I was like, we have no control over that. That terrifies me. And that's like my baseline psychology is if I don't have control over something, I feel very uncomfortable. So I like said, okay, you know what? Let me just do this the old fashioned way. I'm going to go find a job in the private sector and pay off my loans. So I did that. I ended up going to a small white collar criminal defense shop downtown. Robert Gottlieb. At the time, it was Gottlieb and Gordon. Celia Gordon was his partner at the time. And he's one of the best criminal defense lawyers in the city. Still is. He's an absolute, like, artist when it comes to, like, defending people against criminal charges. He's amazing. Great lawyer. Really well-spoken. Super involved in, like, politics over the years. Really, like, just a great guy to talk to. And certainly one of those people that, like, after you talk to him, you're like, I would trust this guy to, like, get me out of jail if I had a problem. And so I worked for him thinking that was like my path. I'm like, okay, like maybe I go to federal prosecutor from here because I'm going to do a lot of federal cases. And then and truthfully, I just hated it. Like I didn't hate the work itself. I didn't like being in that world. I didn't like dealing with people at their absolute lowest because that's what you're dealing with when you're a prosecutor, but really when you're a defense attorney, you're dealing with people at the lowest point of their lives. They are facing losing their freedom. Like you think about that for a second. It's like most people don't understand how serious that feeling is. It's like overwhelming to like look somebody in the eye and tell them like you may not see your kids grow up. Like, and that's real. And don't get me wrong. Like if they did something wrong, that's life. There's consequences. Like that's society. Yeah. Like that's how it all works. But there's still something. It's very human about it. Like it's very personal. And you still feel empathy and sympathy for somebody who's in that spot, unless they are a total piece of shit, which I did encounter. And frankly, there's a couple of those meetings where like the question that always set them off was, okay, so look, like, the government's going to come to your house, like based on this, what you're telling us, you're probably going to be arrested in the next like 24 to 48 hours. We're going to reach out to the FBI or whoever to arrange a surrender or like figure out what's going on. But you should expect when they arrest you that they're going to take all your stuff, your computer, your phone, your laptop, whatever. Is there anything else on there we should be worried about? And that was the discovery. I learned a lot about human nature because what I discovered was if you're the kind of person who breaks one or a few laws, you're probably doing a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah,
like
it's
a
not
lot.
just one.
It's like Pringles, man. It's not just one thing. It's just the stuff people would tell us. It was just like mind blowing, like the long list of terrible things they were doing in their lives. And there was one meeting where I just started laughing. Like while the client was spilling their guts, I just started laughing. I'm like, Jesus. I'm like, where does it end, dude? Like we turned it into a joke and everyone just kind of like, there was like tension building where it was like, we just all started laughing because it was so ridiculous. Like even the guy, like the defendant himself,
defendant was laughing.
The client was like, yeah, this is bad. Like, it's like one of those coming to Jesus moments. Like, wow, like I had to list everything terrible that I do. And it's like, it's a lot of stuff. But I kind of left that meeting thinking like, I don't want to do this. I just don't want to do this. Like I work long hours. I have so little control over my life, my schedule. Getting calls from clients at like 11 p.m. on Saturdays saying like, hey, like there's like 30 federal agents outside my door and, Bob's phone died because he's on vacation or something, or like he's just, wherever. And like he's usually like always on, but they couldn't reach him. So like I'm on the phone and like he's literally holding speakerphone like through the door to talk to the lead agent about whether we should let them in or not. And like the guy's got his kids in bed, you're thinking like, oh my God, there's so much pressure.
Yeah.
And it's like, thankfully I didn't have anything to drink tonight, but I just, the tension and working with people in that scenario. And then I worked on this case. Frankly, it was like we've represented a real estate developer, and without giving too much information about him or his case, I will just say super, super corrupt federal authorities involved. And they had personal vendettas against this guy. It was so obvious that it was like kind of personal. It was like one of those like, oh, we'll show you kind of cases. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't fair and it wasn't like just. And I like in my mind, it kind of corrupted what I thought of like the whole profession. I'm like, you're supposed to be like the white knights. Like you're supposed to be like above reproach.
Yeah.
And it was my first time seeing like almost like political retribution in action. And I just thought like, you know what? I want nothing to do with this. I want to go make money because I got loans to pay and this is not doing it fast enough. And also this is sort of miserable. And the client was like one of my favorite people because he was so honest about everything. He would tell us what he did wrong. Like it was like no other defendant who like, tried to minimize conduct. He would just flat out tell you like, yep, I did that. Like no question. He's like, I didn't do that, but I did this part, and it was eye-opening to me. And it just made me think like, and he was a self-made guy and we ended up getting a really good result for him. But it was a experience that really made an impact on what I wanted my life to be about. And that led me to going to be a real estate broker because it was at that time, like where my wife and I watch $1 million listings sometimes. And I'm like, I could do this, and I had friends who had always said I should be in sales. It was like this confluence of conversations that led me to be like, okay, like if everyone says I should be in sales, I don't want to sell insurance and I have no background in finance. So that kind of leaves me with one option, which is actually pretty good for me because I like architecture, I like history, I like New York City. It was like selling New York City. I could do that, like no question. I thought I was going to sell commercial real estate because I thought residential real estate was for idiots. And here I am. But
how many years later?
10 years.
10 years?
Yeah. And I had a couple conversations. I had a conversation with this guy, Joe Kosum, who's like a friend of a friend. He's at Marcus & Millichap. He still is. He's one of the most successful commercial real estate brokers in the country. Like he is phenomenal. And he was then, he is now. He's got longevity. He's got long-term success. That conversation was supposed to be 15 minutes. I asked for that meeting through my friend because I remember Joe had come in when I was bartending during law school and he was a young dude, clearly crushing it, like just like making a lot of money. I think he tipped us like $100 bills, whatever, like it was nothing. And I'm like, who is this guy? He's like a kid basically. And years later I met him. Supposed to be 15 minutes and turned into like an hour and a half. He basically offered me a job on the spot. That didn't work out for a couple of reasons. And frankly, I got advice from JD Parker, who's at Marcus & Millichap now. I think he's a tri-state manager, or he's definitely, I think he's next in line basically to be like the CEO of Marcus & Millichap nationwide. He's super, super well-respected guy. I don't even know him that well, but I'll never, like he had an impact on my life that he'll probably not remember, which was telling me, not to work with Joe and his team because they were looking for more of like a grunt worker, like a 22-year-old who's like looking for 5-7 years of just like working up the ladder gradually and doing all the bitch work for years. And he's like, look, you're transitioning from another professional career. He's like, you're probably going to hit your stride faster. And then you're going to be sitting in my office in a year saying you want to go off on your own to make more money and not be working under these guys. And it's going to create tension. He's like, I would love to have you here, but I'd rather you work with somebody else. And here's why. It was the most honest professional assessment that I had ever received to that day. And the guy had met me for like 20 minutes. And his read on me was so accurate. And he clearly knew his own office, his team. He read personalities like that. I could see why. Like now I'm like, of course this guy should be the CEO of your company. Like he reads people in 5 seconds. Like he's amazing. But it shifted my path. And I ended up, I had spoken to my wife's aunt, who was a really successful broker at Corcoran. She has since passed away. Her name's Patricia Ninest. And she was in Park Slope for years in Brooklyn. She was amazing. And she gave me, she's like, go find a place where you can work with a senior broker, do like the grunt work for a little while, learn the business, and then you can go start your own thing. Like, be at a brokerage, but like be on your own.
Yeah.
Great advice. I basically, it was more detailed than that. And I had like a checklist, and my first brokerage kind of checked all those boxes. Like, all right, great. I'm going to go learn this business. So off I went the year we were getting married to tell my father-in-law was an insurance broker. He's basically retired now. And at the time, so he's like sales guy through and through. And like, I went to him, I'm engaged to his daughter. I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about leaving my career, taking a commission only job.
What are you going to do with my daughter? You're going to like give her this life?
That guy, I don't know why, but he must have a lot of confidence in me, or, he held it in really well because he gave me really good advice. He basically said, like, you're going to stay and be a lawyer. You got to bring in business eventually as a partner. You're never going to make real money unless you produce your own business, essentially. And that's true at a small or a large firm. And he said, if you don't like, he asked me, like, do you like what you're doing? I was like, no, I hate it. He goes, well, if you don't like what you're doing, nobody's going to buy it from you. Like if you're selling, no one's going to buy, if you don't like what you're selling, no one's going to buy it. So if you hate what you do as a lawyer, you're probably better off doing something else. And that was it for me. I was like, okay, it's good advice. Like, yeah, I'm good. Let's do this. And I went off and I just started from scratch. Like, it was really a weird feeling to have like gone through law school and been like, because like you're like taught, you're conditioned to think like you've accomplished something, when in reality you've accomplished nothing, right? Like, and like I started over, and I just was sitting there hammering away. I decided, I was at a brokerage that specialized in like Manhattan townhouses. I was getting frustrated because there was no like good, it was a territory-based system, kind of like Massey Knackle was for years in the city. Successful model, but there's nowhere left in the city. Everyone had all the good territory. So I'm thinking like, I was like working the East Village. I'm like, this is terrible. There's no townhouses or brownstones here. There's like nothing here. It's all tenements and new condos. And came home one day complaining about it. My wife was like, why not Brooklyn? Like Brooklyn Heights is gorgeous. Like, and like the houses are super expensive, aren't they? So I open up, like I look online. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, this stuff is expensive. Like, there's a good opportunity here. Maybe this could be where I go. So I brought that brokerage into Brooklyn, and that was sort of that's where I got my foundation. And I built that business one person at a time. I literally I downloaded a list of everyone who owned townhouses in brownstones in Brooklyn Heights. It was like 970 something people, 973, I think. And they had like this old sort of CRM type thing, and I just entered every name in. I looked up the phone numbers one by one. And I cold called all of them, and I mailed all of them. To this day, because I did that by hand, one at a time. Like today, it's like you get VAs, you figure out how to accelerate all of it. It was 10 years ago, and it was at a place that wasn't very tech forward. So like I did it all one at a time, and holy shit, that took about a year. And but to this day, like you rattle a name, I can probably tell you an address, and because I did it the old-fashioned way. But I just was cold calling. I cold called a Billionaire one day, and she picked up and didn't want to sell her house, but told me like, hey, if you find this type of thing, like I would buy it because that's what we're looking for as like a family asset, essentially. I'm like, okay, great. And I took a note. I'm like, great. I got off the phone. I'm like ecstatic. I'm like, I spoke to my first billionaire. That's great. Like, awesome. So proud of myself. And but like, because those little wins were really important. Like you were slugging away. Like my average day, I'd get up at 4:00 in the morning. Or 4:30, I'd go for all I could fit into my schedule was a 2-mile run. I couldn't do more than that. I didn't have time. So I did a 2-mile run because I have to work out every day or I go a little crazy. So I go 2-mile run, then back to the house. And I was...
That's like less than 20 minutes
workout. 15 minutes every day, 15 minutes. Now I do longer workouts, thankfully. But back then it was like 2-mile run, then back to shower. And I was also living with my in-laws, my future in-law. Wasn't even married yet. I was living in their house. I paid them some nominal rent, which, probably covered half of what I ate in a week. And they were super kind, though. And, and it was like they knew it was good for us as a couple to streamline expenses, with what I was doing. So that's what we did. I gave up my apartment. I had an apartment in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and gave it up. And I just...
Scrapped.
Yeah.
Really.
4 a.m., run in the dark, back, got on the Q35 bus to take to Flatbush Avenue from Rockaway Beach, where my in-laws live. I'd take that to Flatbush Avenue, I'd get off, take the 2-3 to Atlantic, transfer to the 4-5, go to 59th and Park, 59th and Lex, and then the office was near there. At the time, I usually got there at like 7:45, and I would work on that database, and if there was some calls I could make from 8 a.m. on, I would do that. 9 a.m. to 5, essentially, I worked on another agent's listings to make some money, get small percentages of those deals. And then at 5 p.m., again, I shifted back to building my own business. So it was more databasing, but 5 to 6:30, 7 o'clock was the golden hour for cold calling for me. If you called people at their office, usually between 5 and 5:30, every secretary or receptionist was gone. So you would get directly to, if you called a law firm partner at 5:45, you were right to their desk, and they were there. So so you would call. I'd get connections that way. So I just started analyzing and keeping track of the best times to reach different industries, different people, and I would structure my time around that. And so until about 7 o'clock, I would call. I found that after 7, people were usually eating dinner and got really pissed off about getting phone calls. So I stopped at 7, and at 7 p.m. I would head out. and I would got home around 8:30 or so, same way back, eat, shower, get in bed, pull out the laptop, and start databasing, building that database again. And I would just pass out around midnight. I would do the same thing Monday through Friday. Then Saturday, I would do more of that and more cold calls for a few hours where I could fit it in and where I felt like I wasn't offending people. And Sunday, open houses, showings, whatever. So it was a grind. That was the schedule for probably 15 to 18 months. It was just that every day. And got married. But thankfully, right around the time I got married, I found a building that I did 2 things simultaneously. I signed up my first listing, which was a townhouse in Clinton Hill, actually. It was somebody I connected with here in Brooklyn Heights who knew someone who had a building in Clinton Hill. They listed it with me. Then at the same time, I was putting together this deal. It was a large institution that owned these waterfront assets, and they were looking to sell them. It was way out of my wheelhouse and no idea what I was doing, but they were not being widely marketed. So I said oh, you know what? I'll send it over to this person who said that they would be interested. So I sent it over to her. I got an email 5 minutes later saying someone will be in touch today. This was at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. They don't respond that. She didn't respond that quickly usually. And then I got a call from someone who said, look, my name's so-and-so. I'm her real estate guy. Where are you today? I'm like, I'm going to be in Midtown for this conference or whatever. He's like, all right, give me the address. Meets me there an hour later and says, all right, look, she wants to buy it. She gets what she wants. So how do we get this done? I was like, it's $100 million. It's probably going to be $100 million deal. He's like, yeah, that's fine. We could pay cash. And I was just like, is this real? Is there a camera here? The reality show? It was wild. And basically the next 4 months was just me grinding away, figuring out how to do that deal. I learned a lot about just how, it's a lot of fake it till you make it. I had no fucking clue what I was doing. And I was just like, okay, We need something for like an environmental report. That's great. Like I would like look at the diligence documents. I found the name of the guy who put the report together or did the testing 5 years ago or something. And I'm like called him up. I'm like, can you do a conference call with like with this group of people that you don't know at all and whatever. So I'm just doing that. And then like we need an appraiser to help us pinpoint something on value or a tax expert on something. So it's just literally finding an expert. And I tell my team this now. I was like, you don't know the answer? I was like, go find an expert, get on the phone, put them on the phone with your client together, like do some prep, and then get everyone on the phone together and let the expert give the advice, and then we can make assessments. That's what I did to get through that deal. And we eventually got to the finish line, and it paid off my student loans. $100 million transaction, paid off all of my federal loans, and a few months later, I made another couple of deals where I was able to pay off the remainder of my wife's loans. And from there, we were in the clear. We were, we were running from there. But that's how I started. And doing that big transaction actually helped quite a bit because people heard about it through the grapevine. It wasn't like, I didn't really talk. To this day, I don't talk about like the address, any of that stuff. I don't talk about any of that because it was, like wanted to be private about it.
Keep it all private.
Yeah, be respectful about everyone involved. But people hear, and I started getting calls from developers, people who had houses that they wanted to sell, people who had houses on the market that hadn't sold yet and wanted to change brokers. It just started snowballing. And every year, a little more. And then like 5 years later, you look around and it was like, oh, like I've got like 40% of the market in this neighborhood, in the townhouse market. And then it just started growing from there and kept growing and growing and growing. And at a point, it was like team had grown. I had a business partner who I'd started working for. Now we were partners. And we started getting stuff, I was representing buyers on larger apartments and stuff that wasn't necessarily in the wheelhouse of just townhouses and brownstones. And I was underwriting buildings for developers to do new developments, but I was never going to represent them because we didn't have the resources or platform to do it. So that's where the thought of like making a move came into play. And, I think every brokerage besides two were really not moving with the times. You had Compass, which was big on technology and their app and like how they were going to support agents. You had Serhant, which was big on social media, marketing and video and like leveraging all of that for your business. I went the latter route because frankly, I thought we were pretty strong in everything else, right? I built a business on delivering information for people. Like I cold called for years and my process, my mantra is like deliver something of value for nothing. Like do not like you get on the phone, you tell people like, hey, it's Ravi Kantha from, It's Ravi Kantha from Serhant, and I'm calling to let you know I sold, just sold your neighbor's house next door at, number 13 for $10 million. Okay. Most brokers don't shut up. Most salespeople just keep talking. They just keep going. Be great. Like, are you interested in this? Or like, maybe we can chat more about them. But like, don't do that. Like, what you do, give that information. Get your name and the price, name, address, price, and then shut the fuck up. Don't say a word. And most people are taken aback by that in a good way. They're like, it piques curiosity. It's like, why is somebody just calling me and giving me info and doing nothing after that? And usually the response is like, oh, like the first time maybe like, oh, like why are you, that great. Like, why are you calling me? It's like, well, I'm just, look, we do a lot of business in the neighborhood. Close that deal. Figured you loan on the block. You're next door. You might want to know what your neighbor's house is worth because it's not public yet. It's on, signed contract or whatever, or it hasn't recorded yet. But, just wanted to stay in touch, give you the info. And usually after that, it's either a thank you, not interested, not for sale, or it's interesting. Like, their house is a little bigger than mine, but like we renovated more recently. I wonder what, and like that's where a conversation starts. It's just building a relationship, right? And like I might, usually I'm very upfront with people when they ask, like, say like, look, I can't convince somebody to sell a multi-million-dollar asset. The notion that people would do that is insane. What I'm here to do is give you information, be a resource, be of value to you, and one day, if you decide to sell that thing, I want to be in the conversation. That's it. You go interview people, like whatever. Like, I just want to be that name that you think of, who knows the market, provided you with information, and was more useful to you than anyone else. Generally speaking, the two are very connected. People want the expert to help them. So if you can position yourself that way, it's a really effective way to build that relationship. That's how we did it. Like, and that was it. And then we got to Serhant. It was like, all right, now let's take all this information and all this experience and figure out how to leverage video and everything else with it. How do we use all this new tech? How do we use social media effectively? And I spent the last year and a half like figuring out like what do people want to hear me actually talk about? Like, I don't fucking know. Like, I'm not Ryan. Like, I'm not like going jumping in bathtubs and doing stunts online. Like, because, and it worked for Ryan. Like, it worked. He's an actor by background, right? So like, there's a certain element of performance that I think he has that I just will never have. Like, it's just not me. It doesn't feel like me. It doesn't look like me. So that's like, I've gotten the couple times I've experimented with like different things where it was like cringe or goofy or whatever. I have one client who's a good friend, and he has no reservations sending me a message saying, you look like a fucking idiot. Like, you should not be doing this. Like, this is not you. Like, you gotta, like, you're the expert. You're this, you're that. You're not that. Like, I literally just screenshot it and sent it to our social media manager, director of marketing, director of ops. I'm like, read this. I'm like, we should listen to people who know us, who know me. And if it doesn't look natural, I shouldn't be doing it. That's it. Like, you know, and like, I know, like, what I've learned about myself, I'm not funny on camera. Like, talking to a camera, I'm not that funny. But like, conversationally, I can make people laugh. If I'm on a panel speaking, I can do it. But I'm like, humor is not the thing I should be doing when I'm like filming a video for a listing. Like, it just doesn't work. It looks goofy. It doesn't look natural for whatever reason. I guess because I'm more of a wise ass, I'm better in this format. So, but like, learning that stuff has been fascinating because there's a whole industry built on this. And what do people want? Like, if at least from learning about it, if I had to say the most important thing I've learned is that people crave authenticity. Like, they really, and it's such an interesting synergy for me with how I did business for so long, because I'm blunt to a fault. Like, I will lose business because I tell people, I know you want that price. It's just not going to happen. Like, it's just not there. The market isn't there. Like, okay, I'm going to hire the broker who says it is there. All right, fine. But like, and I've lost business that way, and I'm okay losing it. Like, I would rather get it. Like, you know, of course I want every listing and everything, but like, that approach has served me well because people end up trusting you because they know you're willing to say difficult things they don't want to hear. And social media has turned out to be the same exact thing. People want authenticity. So as long as I'm not bullshitting people, like, it works. And that's what, like, figuring out what content works, and like, then it factors into your marketing plan. It's like, okay, like, but we have other team members who are great at being goofy on camera, and maybe there's this other asset where that works. Like that, like, we can showcase some aspect of this property by having one of these like silly videos, but I'm not in it. Like, it's not me. But you know, we did one where we did like a hyperspeed race between, you know, like a race between two of our team members on camera, being followed by somebody running behind them. They're both younger. They're both like the vibe was just like bro-y but funny. Yeah. And like, it worked really well. Like, people loved it. We got tons of engagement, and it's fun and interesting learning about this whole new medium, because I think it changes how people market. And it's great because you get visibility into it like you never got from like TV commercials, for example. It's like that yep. is like the marketing world of like Don Draper and everything else in the past. Like, it's so vastly different from how we do it today. And I think what we're doing today is the future of marketing, commercials, you know, commercialization, all that stuff. Like, it's just heading in that direction. So I love it. You know, as you can probably tell, I'm a little bit of a nerd for it.
Yeah. So like, you have that curiosity and that like obsessiveness where you just dive all in.
Yeah.
So looking at like what you are doing, what you want to do, and the content that you actually want to create, the videos that you actually want to put out there, talking to like what you want to do now that you've learned what you don't want to do, like what direction are you heading? Because there's other agents, new, old, etc. Like, either I want to break into that like high net worth, or they're already in there and they don't even know like what content they should create.
Yeah, I think what people seem to respond well for me is authentic, genuine advice on real estate, right? Like, not just real estate, but sales, business, whatever. Like, just being very straight up about like what it takes to succeed. And that can be granular for like real estate specific advice, or like, you know, I did one yesterday on like what kind of asset I would never buy. Like, what would I never buy in New York City? Expiring land lease co-op. Don't buy that. And then but sometimes it's as simple as like, so how do you, like, what does it take to succeed? Like, what's the most important thing in any industry? Follow up and consistency, right? You say you're going to do something, do it. And then if you do the same thing over and over and over again in a disciplined way, it will work. As long as you follow the process and you check all the boxes that you're supposed to check on the way to completion, and it'll work. It's cold calling. I tell people on my team all the time, like, lead generation, cold calling, connections, it's just a numbers game. It's odds. That's all it is. Like, if somebody told you you could buy 1 million lottery tickets by staying there a little longer and hitting the phones for a little longer, and your odds go up exponentially, it's like you would do it. This is no different. It's a really obvious way to increase your odds of success is just to do more of that, right? So that's sort of why that obsessiveness helps a lot, because when I'm sitting at home, if I have a choice of don't get me wrong, I have to wind down like any normal human being, but if I'm sitting there, my kids are, sleeping or whatever, or I'm up early in the morning, it's like I could spend this time doing something constructive that is conducive to potential future business, or I could sit here and do nothing. And 98% of the time I choose the former. The 2% of the time I might look at watches or something, there's a guilt. Maybe it's I was raised Catholic, so maybe it's from there. It's this inherent guilt of I'm not doing everything I can, and it's obsessive to the point. It's well, if I'm not doing everything I can, I'm not making as much money as I could. If I'm not making as much money as I could, I'm not providing for my family as much as I could. The wheels start turning in that really negative way where I'm you know what, I could take this feeling and turn it into a positive by looking through my to-do list and finding something I haven't done that I was supposed to do and doing it right now. And you do it, and then all of a sudden it's maybe it converts, maybe it doesn't, but psychologically it's such a it's a profound impact on how you tackle the rest of your day or the next day or something. So I think that obsessiveness, if you have it, just latch onto it and find a way to what helped me succeed is finding where to direct it, and it's work. For me, it's sales was perfect. When I was at the DA's office years ago, when I was looking for a job in the private sector, I was making a list of everybody who went to my law school, my high school, my college, whatever. I worked at the DA's office, contact information, and then I had a column for if I had reached them, when I had reached them, when was the last time I reached them, when's the next time I want to talk to them. And I look back at now, I'm no shit, I should have been in sales. I was literally I was prospecting when I was trying to get a job. It's the same thing. So I think that obsessiveness has always helped me. Recognizing it and directing it to the right things is really what took me on a different trajectory.
Nice.
Yeah.
And there, I don't know if because we talked off camera about a lot of things. There's a few things that you're planning to do, or is there a few hey, this is where things are going and I want to do this sales, marketing, and add this to my business? Or
yeah, I think, for our direction in real estate, it's, okay, so we were big in townhouses, brownstones. Then it was okay, I want to be in apartment resales. I want to expand our platform, and I want to be in new development. And we got a big announcement coming soon, which is exciting, big building that we're going to be handling. And I think that's the next step. And then, ultimately, talk about long-term big vision. It's I think the market and technology have changed in a way that allows us to cover different territories, different cities. I think there's some synergies there, especially with South Florida, Miami, the Hamptons. It's there's so much opportunity, and my clients are in all those markets, right? They're not just in those markets. What's different about today from 10 years ago is they're constantly moving between those markets, right? They are living here for a few years. They have their place in the Hamptons, and they got the place in Miami that they're going to move down to because their office is down there now. But you know what? We're going to come back to New York because we like the school better that their kids were at or something. There's just a lot of mobility. And especially once you get north of that $15 million threshold, the mobility is day to day. People are all over the world. And because they can afford it, they can live that dream life. It's you're the rest of us sit around man, it'd be so great if we could just be in Tuscany right now. And then I've got clients who have the liquidity to be I'm going to go work from Tuscany for a week or two. I run 5 businesses and I've got people to handle everything day to day. So I'm going to just take a jet and I'll be in Tuscany. And that client, I'm not going to work in Tuscany, but if you have that reputation and the rapport with them, that they trust you inherently, they want to work with you on real estate. I think if you have that expertise in multiple markets and you have the resources and boots on the ground to do it, it'll work. Where it doesn't work is like when a broker pretends they're an expert everywhere. Like I'm never going to be the complete expert on like Miami's market or something, but could I find a partner there who's like super experienced and like really good and could be part of something bigger? Yeah. And I think the biggest challenge in our business is people want that consistency and it's hard to find. And it's hard to find that level of service, right? I think people who transact in the 10, 15, $20 million plus markets, they want a certain level of service. They want a certain level of competency, responsiveness. I mean, you got to be on at all times, right? And if you can deliver that, you can build something really big. And because of the accessibility today with cell phones always right next to you, essentially, I think people, like there's an opportunity there. So in terms of growing, that's sort of the direction I think we will head. But, baby steps, one thing at a time. First is new development, New York City. Focus on that, expand that footprint, make a big splash, and like just continue to build on it. And, from there, everything else is related to that. Like, I think we're working on a podcast. We're working on, but primarily because our YouTube footprint is pretty light right now, and I think YouTube it's global, right? It's like it's a powerful tool in other parts of the world, especially. So you want to be there, but you have to be there with the right type of product, and you have to establish like learning about the interplay between all the different social media platforms. That's something that I'm brand new to, but it's super exciting, and Sirhan's definitely like the right place to be for that.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. And when you look at like what you want to do, what you want to build, and then what you built, you decided to like go into townhouses, and now you're like, okay, I built it. Let's go into new development. Let's build it and let's expand. There's a lot of agents, especially early on, who kind of want to do everything anywhere.
Yeah.
So would you say like it's a better approach to like be in a market and build that way?
I mean, I think be an expert in a micro sub market right away. That gives you instant credibility, right? Like you become the expert on something. It's how you build a business really quickly, faster. And frankly, when you think about the logic of it, it's like I could run around and be something, all things to everybody, and run around and like serve this neighborhood, that neighborhood, this person, that person, like different industries, different whatever. Or I can be an expert in like one submarket. Usually that market, like in New York City, it means like either a neighborhood, a building, or like an asset class. And then you're not going to run all of it. Like the built-in efficiencies, you can't overstate how important that is and how much cost you save and time you save by like being an expert in something that is more micro and smaller at first. Macro comes later. It's like once I became an expert in selling townhouses in Brooklyn Heights, it was really easy to go get business in Cobble Hill right next door and Boerum Hill right next door to that. And then it was like, oh, there's a lot of overlap with downtown Manhattan. It's like, okay, so I'll go get some business in the West Village and grow there. And then a year and a half later, you look at our listing portfolio and it's like 3 or 4 houses in the Village, 5 in Brooklyn Heights, 4 in Cobble Hill. And like it's balanced and it's all over the place because it took it step by step and grew with synergy and connection, right? And I think I hate the word synergy, by the way, because it's like that like corporate-y thing. but it's true. You want stuff that connects in some way, where there's like a sensible connection. And new development, the connection is the luxury market, right? It's like I've got relationships with people who maybe they were townhouse buyers or sellers, or maybe not, but they're in that same group from a wealth standpoint, and the asset class they're adjacent to each other, both geographically and from a price point standpoint. And it's a natural progression. And I think the organization of how we run our business, how diligent we are, how detail oriented we are, it's a good fit for developers, right? They like that. Developers want people who are data obsessed, right? And that's me. Like I want to know everything. Like we're using AI now. It's like we're trying to build databases. It's like it was common to keep like spreadsheets of sales, right? Mm-hmm. That's good. That's useful. What's more useful is if there's a column for who bought it, and like I could say this and not worry about like, people are going to copy it. It's like, it is intense work.
It takes a lot of work.
Oh man. Like to get the buyers for all these properties and then to use technology to like analyze it and figure out like, okay, what are the trends here? Like what are the real trends? And like, you can go everything from macro to micro in terms of, okay, like we're seeing like people with this many kids are gravitating to here and this general net worth or whatever. And people from this building tend to buy over here after they rent here. That's fine. But like you could get as granular as like, oh, it's interesting. Like this private equity firm, like the partners, like 4 of the partners have upgraded their places in the last like 3 months at this level or whatever. So like maybe we should be targeting,
Yeah.
you know, getting in front of those people, or maybe they have a big liquidity event coming that's not public yet or something, you know, like you think about those things, and it's how you get in front of people before other people do. Right. And like my team hates hearing it probably at this point, but I say like our business is it's not difficult. It's hard. There's nothing that's really complex, nothing hard to understand, right? Like there's no algorithms, there's no computer stuff that's like, man, I can't even, like I talk to some like hedge fund traders or you get to like the quant guys and everything. You're like, I have no idea what you're doing. Like I cannot comprehend how this works. And same thing for like my wife with like engineering and patent law. I was like, this is so above what I'm capable of understanding. But what I do day to day, like it's pretty easy to explain to people. It's just like, you got to go out and do it. It's execution. And it's probably why, as like a former athlete who was obsessed with sports for so many years, is why it like resonates with me, because it's the same thing. It's like, get up and go to practice every day. And then when it's game time, you got to perform, and that's it. And you just keep doing it over and over, and you get better at it. But that's where that's sort of where my head's at with all of it. And I think it's a great business for that reason. I was looking for a place where it felt like a real meritocracy, like where like you get what you put into it. And that was one of those things, you know, Joe from Marcus and Milchad, that's what he said to me. He's like, you don't really get what you put into this. Like if you hustle, grind, and hit the phones, you'll make money. That line was like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I get that. That resonates.
Yeah, business is simple, not easy.
Yeah.
So looking at like everyone that you've been connected with, like clients, like Sirhan, everything that you've learned over the years, if you had to say like, this is something that you've kind of really taken and internalized, and this is something that has changed the trajectory of your life, is there anything that comes to mind?
You know, there's probably 2 lines. The one I mentioned with my father-in-law, if people don't like what you're selling, they're not going to buy it. So like, whatever you do for a living, you don't like, it's not that you have to like have this like, you know, amazing passion. Like there's so few people who like, when they get up and go to work, they're like, this is everything I wanted in my life. Like I never dreamed of being a real estate broker, right? But like, I love what I do. Like I love sales. I really, really enjoy it. I enjoy the competition. I love the asset classes, the stuff we sell. Like I really like it. And that makes it so much easier to do, right? Like the stuff I don't like about our job is the unavoidable failures, the stress of like, you know, just dealing with clients who are, you know, difficult or having a bad, or like, you know, or bad markets or whatever. That's what I don't like, but everything else I like. So it makes it so much easier to go do. So that was really good advice. You know, it's something I would say like everybody should try to incorporate that into their lives. Like if you can like what you do, you're just going to be better at it, and you're going to enjoy your life more. And it's really hard to find, but it's worth it. And, you know, you get one life. You know, it's like you could sit behind a desk and hate it, or you could find something you'd like to do and actually enjoy it a little bit. And I think, you know, the other thing is there is no easy money. There is no easy path to success. Like it's, what is it? The road to heaven looks like hell, and the road to hell looks like heaven. It's like, because you're just relaxing, sitting around on your ass doing nothing, or you're actually grinding and like you're just miserable. And like honestly, the last 18 months, good example. Like I have invested so much time, effort, and money into our business to facilitate all the growth that we've had. Like we went from 4 brokers to 13 people. We went from, you know, I think in my last brokerage, I probably carried like $75 million of listings. We're approaching 400 right now. And with new development in the mix, it's going to approach like $1 billion. Like it's just, it's a lot of growth really fast, but I certainly don't feel like I'm like swimming in it right now, because like what I invest into our business now versus 3 years ago or 2 years ago is probably up by a factor of 5 to 10x. Like I was like, okay, like,
back in,
it's like, okay, like I need to do this stuff to like, you know, like basically like there's common, like, it's not just like throwing money at things, but it's more like, all right, so like this is supposed to help us, right? How does it help us? What does it look like? How does it play out? All right, like this seems like a wise, you know, cross-checking it with multiple people, more experienced people, managers, Ryan, you know, Coins, the chief technology officer at Sirhan, he's so helpful. Like you go to all these different resources. I have a coach now. I never had a coach before. So, you know, I think I pay like $1,000 or $1,200. I don't know what it is a month. Something. It's like automated now. Like I don't want to know. But if you told me like, would you pay $1,000 or $1,500 a month for a coach 5 years ago? I'd be like, fuck no, no way. I would never do that. Then I went to Sirhan, they have Sell It, as a business. And I went to them when I got there. I'm like, do you guys have any coaches who have built a real estate business like to a larger scale? Not Ryan, like, someone who took a brokerage or like, an office and built it and then like, is coaching now. And they introduced me to this guy, Jack Hawthorne, and he's been excellent because he built a business I think it was like 1,500 brokers or something. Jeez. And then he sold it. And now like he's working in like the insurance industry now. But like in terms of like very similar personality, and it's great because I don't need, like some people get coaching for the therapy and the validation or the accountability. It's like I don't need a coach to like tell me to like do my job.
To motivate
like,
you to wake up.
Like no, I don't need that. Like I need a coach that I can call and say,
I'm dealing with this problem.
Yeah, I got this weird problem and it's the first time I've encountered it. This is how I think I should handle it, but like you've done this before. How would you do it? And or to say, I think I fucked up. This is what I said. Like, was I wrong or not? And how do I manage it if I was wrong? Right? I think that has been so valuable. Like, and I think it's helped me grow a lot as a person, as a broker, as a leader for like my team. So like just these new, like just investing both in myself, in the business, all that stuff, it's fucking stressful, and it's always gonna be stressful. Like there's no end, there's no rainbow, like there's no like end of the road where you're just like, oh, like we're there, it's good. Like if you're ambitious and you want to build something, you're gonna be doing it forever. Right? Like you're building a podcast, right? Like you're traveling around the country,
yeah.
Right? Like you were doing it remotely, you said, right? And now you're like here you are, right? Like that's in a few years, like you look back and you'll be like, yeah, remember that? Like remember that shitty hotel we stayed in because we were like short on money because we were between all these things or whatever. Like when you look back at the beginning of it, right? And like it's no different now. Like I look back from when I first started, and I also look back like now when I'm like you're like. There was a period of time when I started at Sirhan to now where like I carried a credit card balance for the first time in 10 years. I've not paid off my credit card in full in 10 fucking years. And like all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, like I'm putting a lot of money in this business. Like I gotta actually carry a balance for a month. Like I just, like these little things that just became automated. I remember all of a sudden it brought me back to when I was like literally broke and like back years ago, right? It was like now it's like we've got assets. We're like we're in a different place. But it was like eye opening to me. It was just this moment like you're like, yeah, this is what it takes. Like that's what it takes. Like normal human beings have that moment, and they're like, yeah, no, like that's too risky, or I don't want to do that. And that is a rational decision. That's a normal human being decision. People who I think succeed and outperform others. What is it? Delusional self-confidence, right? You should not be that confident in your own abilities. Not even cockiness. It's like, I'm going to get through this. I will do it. Like, and most like outside people look at that and and independently they'll probably think you're nuts, but you do it because you want it and you're gonna take that extra step. So that's what I take is like those two things. It's like you got to have that delusional self-confidence to really do something at a higher level than anyone else around you, than your competition. And I think you got to love it. And if you don't, like, it's just not going to align. It's going to be really hard.
Nice. Yeah. And it's like business CEO of HubSpot, $32 billion, said it's a constant state of just constructive dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
You're just constantly building. So
yeah,
if people want more, where should they go to follow you?
Well, we got my Instagram account's pretty active. I think it's ravi.a.kantha. And then Sirhan, we have our team website, the Kantha team. I think it's kanthateam.com or something. You'll find us on Google, hopefully, or they're not doing their job. And then those are the two best places to find us. And Sirhan's website, too.
And if you just had to say one thing, like, what does world-class leadership mean to you?
Accountability, self-accountability. People really... It resonates with people when not only do you hold them to the standards that you want them to be at, but you hold yourself accountable. And when you fuck up, own it. Like my experience, nobody respects, what people respect more than anything is when the leader says, all right, look, that's on me, and here's how I can fix it. And, basically without saying it says like, thank you guys for following me, and like, this is how I can fix it. And like, people really respect that because there are very few people in the world who do it. Very few. Like, and I've noticed that more and more. It's like I don't know if it's generational and like, you know, it's probably an experience thing more than anything, and realizing that like doing that is really valuable and people respect it. So accountability, that's what it's all about.